Hi, we're the Infamy team. We're hosting Fantasy, Fortnite, and Apex Legends tournaments over on our Discord, link in the description, so go sign up for that. Today we're doing a follow-up to our previous Overwatch 2 going 5v5 video because we were right. It is going 5v5.
You got all the
Despite what all of Reddit may think. Oh man, they were very upset. I can only imagine how upset they were when it actually came to fruition that Overwatch is now 5v5. I actually don't have to imagine because all the internet, Reddit, Twitter, lost their shit. I haven't seen people this passionate about Overwatch in forever since you took away one of their boys. So yeah, just to catch you up if you didn't know, Overwatch 2 is going to be 5v5 with one tank, 2 supports, 2 DPS.
You got there.
And they're buffing the tanks to be a little more brawly and also to give less ult charge, which I think is very, very big. And as well as they're taking away a lot of CC from non-tank characters, so it's like, because main tanks would already get a beating, they'd be getting like stun, sleep, flashbang, so they're going to be taking away a lot of that and leaving it more with tanks that having the CC than other heroes. So what are your guys' initial impression on the new 5v5 end of the world? Is it a good move?
I think it's a good move because the tank problem has always been a problem, and I've always said ever since the double shield meta that no matter how much they reduce shield health, 2 shields will always be 2 shields. So until you fix the 2 shield problem, doesn't matter if it's 100, it's still more than nothing. So I think this was the right move to put tanks in check, because tanks had a lot of dictation over the game.
They had the most dictation over the game.
Yeah.
the only thing that mattered. It feels like so, literally like all the meta was based around like what tank was buffed.
Yeah, but you also have when the tanks are like as powerful as they are, they're very easy to shut down too. You just like, all right, the tanks dictate the game. You go Reaper, Junkrat, or McCree, just chain CC the tanks. So now that they're addressing that issue, I think it'll feel a lot better as the tank. I know a lot of people are worried because the main tank off tank synergy, although it did feel good, I think it was very oppressive in put in the right hands. So I think it'll shift a lot of power to that one individual tank, and it won't feel bad. I think it'll feel super good, and that's based off of World of Warcraft experience, believe it or not.
Wow.
What?
Look at you.
Yeah. I'm
The Blizzard fanboy.
I've been a Blizzard fanboy, but yeah, solo tank in World of Warcraft, although scary, it does feel super good to just be the one who dictates everything, and that like you're Superman amongst mortals. That's what it feels like.
I would say you're right in like the context of Overwatch, but like standing there and just eating damage and like not doing much other than like CC, like just like doing your crowd control and like drawing aggro.
You're doing damage, bro. You see that Zarya?
Yeah. In Overwatch,
He's talking about WoW.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, well, WoW, you have
Your
positioning.
main job was to not die.
Yeah, that's your only job. And in
Not
this game,
die.
it looks like
Same thing.
Like they've switched the role of tank to like instead of like just eating up the damage for your DPS, it looks like your job is more to disrupt the other team. Like I feel like that's why they made them more brawly. Like I'm looking at the video now, and I'm literally just watching this Reinhardt be in their front line the whole time. It's not like he's standing there with his shield up and his 2 DPS are there. Like,
I mean, that's the nature of his character. To be in
It's all about taking space and like commanding space and like shaping the battlefield. And now that there's one less tank on the opposing team, it makes it a lot easier in general just for you as a tank to be able to do that.
That's what you have to think about too. Like everyone's like, oh, there's only gonna be one tank, but so does the enemy team. So are you better than him? That's what it comes down to.
yeah, I'm looking at like the map design too. Maybe it's just because they showed this one map, but like it's all tight corridors, and they have like a lot of high and low ground. So like the hit scan, like I'm watching Hanzo, Widowmaker right now. I'm like, usually I would be crying because these kids are never gonna hit their shots, but like it looks like they're not nearly as oppressed because like there's a whole bunch of other shit happening that they can actually like take their time and take shots. So
that's a big fear for people though. Like double sniper will just take over because it's like, okay, you have a tank to deal, like a Winston to dive on one of them, but then there's another one that's free, and just leaving the rest of your team with no peel if you're going to deal with that. So people kind of fear, but they did mention that in the thing that like snipers are something that they're going to look at because they don't want them to run away with the show.
But I don't know. That doesn't reassure me in the slightest that they're gonna keep an eye on it, because the whole reason they're doing it is because they couldn't balance it in the first place. So it's like I don't know.
I'm not sure if that was the only reason though. I think it was a lot of like its accessibility is a big thing. Like they want, and as well as just like the press of like shaking up the game. You know, it's a lot easier for new people to get into a 5v5 as well as to watch it as an esport, and to learn the tank role if it's like not contingent on a whole other player doing something. Like tank synergy is like really great, but it's also a skill that isn't super intuitive because it's different than your regular shooting people or healing. It's a little more nuanced.
It's about reading your boy, which most of these kids can't read. So
honestly, the game like Overwatch 1 didn't do a good job of like teaching game sense or like training these kids. Like there was no like tutorial or anything, and I hope like the implementation of like a single player mode actually teaches these kids how to play the game, which would be nice. But what I'm worried about, like with them going one tank, because like I feel like they're like, oh well, the user base that we retain of the tank players will like solve the problem of no one playing doing tank role. But I'm concerned that like no one new is going to want to do it because there's only one tank, and all the toxic people in the community are going to be like, you suck, you're making us lose. They're going to be all on the tank, and
everyone's going to blame the tank. But you have to think about it from the perspective of they invented flex queue because essentially no one would play as tank or support, so people were already not playing as tanks. Everyone would just queue as DPS. So now you don't have to deal with that kid who's just like, well, you know, I just queued as a tank because I want to get my priority passes. And
my point is that problem is still going to exist, and I feel like it might actually be even worse because it's more intimidating to be the only tank.
But you already need half of the amount that you did before, and at the same time they're reworking the role to make it more fun. So it's like less of just like holding a shield, and it is basically they're making it more of a DPS type role in a lot of ways. So you know,
and I think people are sleeping on like the movement stuff that they did, like with Reinhardt being able to cancel his shatter. Like Widow and Hanzo can be oppressive, but when Ryan can pin in, and I'm pretty sure they talked about it in the video where they were saying how you can use your pin and the cooldown starts from when you activate the pin, so you find yourself with your pin more often because by the time you get to where you need to, it's already back because you canceled it. So you end up having more pins. So now Ryan has a little bit more mobility than expected, so who knows how that's going to
They gave him the drift as well.
Yeah, you can Tokyo drift on snipers.
That's gonna be mean. What I want to see though is like, is the Tokyo drift with air control, and how long is his hang time in the air?
Sky
hit the nitro.
Catch the diva. Can I catch the diva in midair and put him off the map and just drop him and then fly back? Am I Reinhardt diva now? Like that's what I want to see.
For April Fools, they did like a joke patch, and they gave him like 200% power steering, so he could do like a straight 180 around and like come back for you when you get the flank. Yeah.
Gotcha.
What my concern? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if you guys think this is gonna make it like faster or slower, because people are getting their ults a lot less, which is a big complaint with Overwatch. So it's just like, you know, wait for your ult to be able to do something, but because, you know, there's one less tank to shoot, and the tank you can shoot is giving you like 30% less ult charge or something like that. There's less ults going in. It's more about the mid fight, but at the same time, it's more of like it kind of feels like team fights are never gonna end. You're just gonna keep like going at it because it doesn't really matter if you lose the tank. It's like, okay, if you can manage to get a pick on theirs, then it just becomes a giant brawl, and people are worried about it turning into Call of Duty.
I mean, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, I think what it does is anybody like one, hit scans are going to be more powerful because they're one, less shields, two, like I was saying before, with the map design, there's a lot of elevation in it. So like anybody that doesn't have like strong mobility, you're gonna have to have a hit scan to deal with that. And then 3, if your character doesn't have a strong kit and like you're relying on your gun only, so like Mei, right? They nerfed her her like freeze. She doesn't have it anymore, just the slow. And then she has like her icicle, which is like a skill shot with like a charge up. It's not like fucking McCree where you can just like pop off on somebody.
It does
like,
do more damage though with the.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a lot on the balance team, and we already know they're not the best at it. So like
they've had a good year.
Yeah. By accident after Jeff left.
What this is gonna force is another big problem that I've seen in the Overwatch community is no one knows how to hold corners or play without a shield. And I think this is gonna set up a skill gap where those people who are just relying on 2 shields to stand there and just spray at people, you're gonna have to be able to know like, all right, I can't peek now because my Ryan shield's broken, and that actually means something. Or your tank's dead.
This whole problem just baffles me that it even exists. Like how? Have you never
like,
played another like? I understand people have never played like shooters before, but if you've played another shooter, like I feel like a lot of people in Overwatch have played like Call of Duty at least, or something. It's like I'm gonna survive better if I hide behind this thing and take tactical shots. And
these are
you mean like practical in life things, like using cover.
Exactly.
Yeah, using cover. Like, there's just something in every Overwatch player's head that's like, I have to constantly be spraying. I have to be constantly trading shots.
There's a reason they implemented single player, bro. There's what these fucking kids are coming from. They're MOBA players and they're single player only kids, and they're like, I want to be a hero shooter. Like, that's where they're coming from, and that's why you see kids standing in the middle of the map, not moving and shooting.
Like a micro example is shift over to Valorant with the FaZe team, where the majority of them are the ex-Owl players, and they're saying when they got their new coach, and they're like, oh, like they were constantly doing something, like they're constantly shooting or just moving around from that over, like it's like it's something that is inherent with Overwatch. It's like constantly, just shooting or spraying. Unlimited ammo.
They were also like, these kids don't know how to look up. Like,
yeah, they're like dogs. They straight up just don't know how to look up.
Oh god.
But like that, like I'm an ADD player, fucking ADHD player, where it's like I have to fucking be doing something all the time. That's why I play Lucio. Booch is gonna be one of the strongest healers in the game. I'm telling you right now, he's got mobility, he's got verticality, and then he's got if they don't get rid of his boop, he's like one of the only people that can like move people around the map anymore. Strongest healer in the game, guaranteed.
Yeah, I think the AoE heal from him is gonna be just having something like that, because your team's gonna be taking a lot more damage, so just being able to cover that.
And they're gonna be spread out a lot more too, because it's not so singularly focused behind shields. Like people are gonna have to be moving around to dodge these fucking hit scanners. Your aim sucks. Let me duck.
That goes to where I think the game is gonna go. I think one of the more fun roles in this new one tank meta is going to be supports, because you're going to have, like you said, like a lot of stuff to do with like everyone taking so much more damage. It's going to be a lot to look for with you being one of the only roles that have CC. You're going to have to.
I think it's going to free you up a lot more too. Like I don't know if I agree with your previous point where people are going to be taking a lot more damage. If there's a whole less tank that you have to heal, those supports can focus on that's one less player they need to, with a lot of health that they don't have to focus their healing on. So it should be easier for them in theory, unless the lack of peel from the extra tank is making their life hell. But
yeah, that's kind of what it's going to shake down to. Like I feel like the player base is going to be split versus like the kids that are good at the game and the kids that are bad at the game.
That's why they're adding PvE.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's going to be like, if you're seeing the lower brackets, that like what Darren's saying, but I think at like the higher levels of play, Lucio is going to be very powerful, because you don't require like Ana levels of burst healing, because you don't, like you said, you don't have 2 players with huge health pools, so that AoE heal is going to be so powerful, because it's just like one.
But it's also going to be harder to congregate in one area without 2 tanks.
Yeah.
So an AoE heal not be as useful.
It comes down to communication. Hey, we're fucking moving the cart, and we're running, like I said before too, with the map design. And if they only showed the one map, if they continue that philosophy where it's a lot of narrow corridors, and a lot of movement, you can coordinate your team into one area, heal through like some cover, and then you're back to full health.
No,
Like
they-
there's a lot of
They
ways.
showed 3.
That, I'm looking at like it
I
looks
was
like
only at the first
all
15
three.
minutes of it.
All 3. That's all I'm seeing is this.
It's a lot of cities, yeah. But
Yeah.
they got rid of 2CP, or I guess they have. They didn't say anything different. They talked that they might. But do you guys think that payload is like one of the more popular modes because the payload fucking heals you? Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Like, the
it's
most
just like that
reliable
one
healing.
consistent. Yeah.
The amount of games like I've had where I get more healing from the card than like my actual healers.
Gold healing goes to the card.
Bro, I can't even remember how far into the game it was, but I remember I had a game where fucking this kid was like, he was like, yo, what are you doing? Why are you on the payload? It's like, bro, it heals you. And he was like, really? And I'm like, bro, how do you not?
There's a pro that came out or someone. Maybe it was a joke, but he just like didn't know that.
It's like, this explains a lot. But
yeah. Any points you have?
oh,
I was just gonna move on to
I
new
was
heroes.
I was gonna say, does the payload heal you in push?
I don't
or
think
no, it's-
so, because it's a neutral objective. I think it's supposed to be more like a Koth, where it's just a
Okay.
point.
I mean, kind of side tangent. What I thought was funny was when they had Super on as like the guest, and like they're like, "Oh, Super, what you're like?" They're talking and they're talking about losing a tank, and you just see like him just dying inside and just like
Yeah.
trying not to just
Hello.
like flame them. Like, oh yeah, cool
They-
guys, you're just potentially kicking me out of my job. But I'm not. I guarantee you, they prepped him like, don't push us on that part.
Yeah. There was one part I saw that, but there was one part where he was like kind of relieved, where he was talking about, I don't know, we were kind of gonna get abused, and then they were talking about how like, yeah, we have like the CC resistance meter on tanks now, so we can just turn that up if it gets too.
Yeah,
too
that was giving him the last breath of air as he's drowning.
But yeah, I kind of want to talk about that in this video. How does that affect the league, where it's just like,
Same thing
Wait,
with Call
we'll
of
get
Duty.
we'll get to we'll get to esports, but before that, I just want to talk about kind of the CC stuff, and like a few heroes weren't shown: Sigma, Orisa, Bastion, McCree, Brig, and Moira. And I would assume because they're still undergoing like drastic reworks and they're not sure they're in a ready enough place to show. But they did say that they're going to be removing like a lot of CC from non-tanks, and I would assume sports as well, but from like damage characters. Like did you see that with May's primary doesn't freeze anymore? They're talking about reworking Kree's flashbang, so like that's to like allow tanks a little more freedom since there's only one of them. What other hero changes do you want to see to those couple that haven't been shown yet?
Give back
I was actually
Doomfist
thinking about
the-
this at the beginning of the video. I didn't want to say anything, but like, how are you going to counter Tracer with move?
That's-
Like that's a big concern now. Like
Yeah.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I
like,
was
they've
thinking
ruined
Reaper.
McCree. Like especially for like lower level players, like he was something where it was like, okay, I don't have the tracking ability to hit this kid as Tracer, so I have the flashbang. Like he was for like lower level and then higher level people. Like
he was even
what are
good
they
at high
gonna
level
do?
because you hit the flashbang headshot one shotter.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like the mid-range people, like we didn't really use them; they were more powerful. But like they like design-wise, like he's for lower level and then really high level. And like I feel like they're balancing a lot around esports and not thinking about like the scrubs. Like what are they going
Scrubs
to
matter though. Hot take, but does it actually make a difference to the scrubs? Can't you just play whatever unless something's particularly busted? Like I was thinking like they're reworking Bastion, and I just like that's like all that lower level kids pull out when they don't know what to do, because it just breaks like the team, because it requires the smallest amount of teamwork to work to counter. So it's like, do these big level changes really impact the lower level that much? Where it's
Yeah,
like
the amount of
realistically, you can get away with a lot of stuff.
The amount of times these kids say that I don't care. So like you'll have like someone in your game who's like a quote unquote casual player, and they'll just say they don't care. So if they don't really care, does it really matter? Because they're just gonna play the game because they're, like you said like earlier, it's a hero shooter and they want to play a hero shooter. So regardless of the
That's
rules of
always
the hero
said there's
shooter,
more of like a meta perception where it's like kids like get the idea that this is the meta and I have to play this, but realistically it's like you're not good enough for it to matter, bro. Like,
You're not even close. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
you
that
gotta
is
think
a
about skill. People are not that fucking self-aware that they actually know what their skill level is. They think they're the best, so like they don't understand. Like you're not playing in a coordinated team environment where you can pull off these plays and like use the meta that's appropriate. That's why I'm like they're removing a lot of the CC, which like helps those lower level kids kind of like Genji's also going to be a problem, especially with the changes that they have to him. Like, how are you going to be able to counteract somebody with high mobility? Like, that's why I said Lucio is going to be one of the best healers, because the CC is gone. So it's reliant on the tank, who's now by themselves blocking all the damage, controlling the map, and now has to also stop the high mobility characters.
I feel like Lucio's low-key gonna be like an off-tank replacement. It's like normally it's like, okay, send the D.Va or the Winston after the Genji, but it's like,
Well,
send the
then
Lucio.
at that point, it's like, do you just lose because your team's just worse? Like, that's not on the game design.
That's why it feels bad. That's why exactly what I'm
But
talking about.
shouldn't that be the thing? You shouldn't get bailed out by cheese, abilities that,
Yeah, because you don't want to put in the time to be able to
All right.
flashbang headshot the tracer.
What's your biggest complaint about online Overwatch? It's that these kids let me down all the time, and it's just gonna feel the same. It's not
my concern with what you're saying, Blake, is not for the skill level. Me personally, as an Overwatch player, I like to play characters with CC like McCree, because there's so many factors that can impact the game, like random Reaper ult dropping in, or Reinhardt shatter. Like you time a flashbang right, you can stop a shatter, cancel a Reaper ult. Not having that is huge, because now I have to rely on one kid on my team who's going to have the CC to deal with that, and that's where my concern comes in. Not so much as countering characters, but just for my own sanity in the game.
What I'm talking about. Still countering characters. Like,
I don't
like
think there
Reaper.
should be like specific hard counters, because that makes the game not fun too. When you're like, well, this kid's just better than me, so I can play this, and there's nothing.
You're saying remove Reaper.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, Reaper's like the biggest offender of that. It's like, how do you even deal with Reaper now?
Yeah, it's not going to feel good when you don't have like things that you used to be able to have impact on and prevent as a DPS player. You're gonna have to rely on your team.
I'm just more concerned for like the solo tank that has to deal with the Reaper and like hope that Ana hits a sleep. Like I don't.
Yeah.
If she still has a sleep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, is he still gonna have it? Like, that's what I'm worried about. Like, how much?
Nah, she will. Supports and tanks are gonna.
I think so. I think it's more damage they want to get rid of the CC from.
Which is fine, because a lot of the DPS cheese comes from CCing and then one-shotting somebody.
But they're not getting rid of fucking double mine Junkrat though.
Mobility mining in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's a mobility mine, Jake. It's
a mobility mine that does 120 damage.
Hopefully they fix that. That's like one of the things I'm like.
Yeah, I'm curious how they're gonna make a lot of these like tanks fit into this new formula they're doing. Like I look at like Zarya, who they changed, which a lot of people don't think it's a big change, but I think it actually is a really good one. That she has two charges that she can choose to use, like two bubbles on herself in succession, or two on someone else. I think it gives a lot more flexibility and allows like a lot more decision making.
Yeah, and
but like, what do you do with like Orisa?
Yeah,
pivot delete her.
Doubling down on what I said before, they talked about it in the video where they said, yeah, now that Zarya has that decision-making ability, you can even double bubble the Nano Genji. And it's like, wow, that sounds cool, but like on the receiving end, what do you do? What do you do to stop the double bubble? You can't touch him.
You killed the Zarya.
You killed the Zarya, but like, I don't know, he's coming for your whole team.
You hit the quick 180 pin.
Yeah, you have to pin the Genji that's double bubbled, and then he's still at full health.
Yeah, because he's still bubbled. He's still bubbled.
He's still bubbled. Like I was thinking about it, and I was like, wow, that sounds cool, but then I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I'm not even really worried about that. I'm more worried about like what Steve's saying, the characters that they have no fucking idea what they're gonna do with. Like, what are they gonna do with Orisa? Like I was talking about it off camera. I'm like, they're gonna have to fucking make a really expensive like cinematic trailer for the reworks that they're gonna have to do with this character, because it's not gonna be the same character at all. I don't see any way that they're gonna have.
Like thinks she's gonna get her legs ripped off and she's gonna become a two-legged horse.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Well,
she's gonna be.
It sounds like you're concerned about the lore, Blake.
I'm not concerned about the lore. I'm concerned about like a lot of these characters. Like what Darren was saying is like, oh well, you're gonna remove. They're removing a lot from the game and a lot of usability. Like, You're sick if your favorite character is Orisa. I hate you, but like that's not gonna be a character anymore. Like I'm just saying, there's no way to rework her kit that I can think of to like
Get rid of her. Get rid of her shield. Give her fortify on like make her another Hog. Like if they're allowing Hog to be a main tank without any changes, like he's just body absorbing shit. Let Orisa do that and give her giddy up. Whatever they give her into the April Fool's patch that she runs faster.
I think that the Roadhog
face
is a
tank.
mistake. The Roadhog is going to be useless.
I imagine
don't
they
think so.
They're gonna have changes to him unless they might give more damage at the very least, but I do
You're
think
like-
he does function as a
What
tank.
if they
'cause
gave
he's
him
kinda
like an
done to-
AoE, like when he does his like take a breather thing? It's like an AoE gas that also it's like mobile caustic barrels from
Like
Apex
heal?
that like damage
like,
people.
Damages people who are in the vicinity.
So if like you use that, like you're creating space that way. It's like, oh, I'm coming in,
my boy
hot,
shits
hot and
himself.
heavy.
But the whole thing is
That'd be-
people kiting him is the problem. It's not when he's up close. Just
Yeah.
like stay away and just
Yeah.
stay out of his range and shoot him.
Straight up mobility. Like that's why I'm so worried about in this game. Is like
That's a-
Roadhog's going to be garbage because he just doesn't have any like Winston. Like you guys convinced me like Winston that is actually going to be very good in the new game. Like yeah, I don't.
There's gonna be a lot more interplay that comes into, so like Winston will be better in my opinion, but then you can play the Roadhog to counter Winston because Roadhog, his hitbox just lines up perfectly with Roadhog. So you like Winston jumps in, you hook him. That can be a value for Roadhog. I think it's gonna come down to a lot more situational uses of heroes as opposed to where it's like this character is just all around good,
That's fair.
which isn't necessarily bad for the game.
It's just these kids do not have a deep hero pool. So,
I think
like,
this is going to force them to have to get one because there's not going to be any safety
agree,
picks.
But do you think that they're actually going to do it? They're just going to drop the game.
Well, I think they have to do because otherwise no one's playing their game currently. So
Fair enough.
I was hoping they had more tanks. Like shit.
Yeah, like
This does
I'll
not
give
absolve
you
you from having to add more tanks from the game, okay? Just because you're playing less at a time.
Mhm.
Do you think like they're over tuning to the characters that they know what to do with, like fucking like Reinhardt and fucking like I feel like they put a lot of time into Reinhardt and like not hearing anything.
I think your
about-
tank is gonna kind of be like your star player, honestly, because it's the
Yeah.
only one in a role and has such a.
then is that
impact
any
level.
different from the current one? Because most of the games at the high level are like whoever has the better tank line usually wins.
Yeah, I don't think that that's a problem, honestly, because like it's the
From what they said, the way the game feels now is that tanks still have the priority that they have now, but everyone else feel it doesn't. You don't feel hopeless if you're not a tank. It's like, well, my tank is out and I can't win the game now because the enemy team has two tanks that are better than mine and they just control all the space. Now it's like, all right, your tank might be bad, but you can get picks as DPS. You can land
There's a whole less
CC.
person looking at you to block
Yeah.
your shots with the defense matrix. Like
Yeah.
it opens up a lot of things for DPS and support to not get jumped on as often.
Yeah, I think everyone's like freaking out and like you're looking at things under a microscope because when you like focus on like, oh, there's one less tank, but you have to think about the rest of the game. It's like, oh, there is one less tank, so now I have more openings. And it's gonna feel like a completely different game, and people
I
are just
agree.
trying to speculate based off of the current version, and it'll never equate. They
Yeah,
even said it on the
exactly.
stream that
my
like
boy Torbjorn though. Gonna be fucking
that's the Tracer
top tier.
Tracer Genji counter. That's the Tracer Genji counter.
Oh yeah, right, dude. Are you
Yeah,
fucking
bro,
kidding me?
100%.
Yeah, after one of your supports is dead, maybe the turret got him. Like, what are you talking about?
Nah,
If
bro,
you-
it's like one of the only characters that
It
that
deters
can
flanks.
deters flanks because you hit them with damage and they either have to retreat or find a health pack.
They added a lot more walls. He's not gonna be as good.
Nah, you haven't played it, but you can throw your turret, so you can put it in a lot more janky spots. It's not just like put it down. You can like put it on the high ground, have a lot more accessibility. And I think they were talking about maybe even giving him 2 in one of the experimental cards.
No,
Maybe
that
I
was
don't
for the-
approve.
Oh,
that was a
that was a joke. But they said
Yeah.
one of the jokes that they did, the diva joke, they actually put that in the game. So who even knows anymore?
Oh no, so totally some of those were like testing them out, but other ones like they were saying like the Sigma Infinite Flight, that's obviously just fucking around. But some of them it's like, let's see if people like this, and people did like a lot of them. So like another was like the Baptiste, instead of immortality, it just damage reduction field basically. So it's not as powerful. But let's get back to the other hot topic of controversy, is the fact that the esport is gonna be, teams are gonna be 5v5 now. And personally, I think people are overreacting, because it seems like tanks are gonna be the most like one of the, or at least one of the most influential roles now in Overwatch 2. So I don't see why you would just get rid of all your tanks but one. Like most teams only have like 2 tanks anyway, right? Like they have an off tank and a main tank, and just like how you have multiple DPS for all different roles or metas, you'd want to have backups on tank now, even if they are going to be on the bench. I don't think every team's just going to cut their tank roster in half.
Yeah, and
Are you
Question.
kidding me? No, they're totally gonna cut their roster in half.
Yeah.
To save money. 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's going to depend on how the game plays, because
I don't
if it
think
plays
people
the
are going
way,
to be good enough to play all the tanks. Like I don't think
yeah,
you're gonna be able to
that's I
find
think you're
one.
gonna need specialists now. So you're gonna need like
Ye-
the kid who's only the diva player, or
I
like
wanna
the kid who's only the
believe-
Winston player.
I want to believe that, but I'm more inclined to believe what Jake's saying. These fucking they gotta recoup that investment as like a founder, like paying into the fucking league. It's expensive to be in the Overwatch League. Think they can afford to have like this kid on the
Teams have
bench?
12-man rosters right now. You think they wouldn't keep
Damn,
one
bro.
of their tank players?
Fair. I'm worried.
Sound like
about it.
one of like, I don't know what to even describe him. He's like a Overwatch content guy who turned into a coach that quit, and then I don't know. He's a very controversial figure.
Jane?
Jane? Yeah, Jane.
Oh,
that was
he's
his first
he's
reaction.
inventing esports, right?
Yeah, he's inventing esports right now. He's very busy. No time to work for NV or Dallas or whatever. But he said like, you're crazy if you think this has anything to do other than saving Overwatch League budgets. And it's like, dude, Overwatch doesn't care that much about Overwatch League. Are you kidding me? Like, someone tweeted they care more about the Rule 64, Rule 53, I don't know, artists than
Whatever you
than
sick fucks
Overwatch
like.
League.
Oh, that. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
24?
There's the rest. Whatever
you
number
kids
that
know.
is. No,
Yeah,
no.
whatever you.
I mean, yeah,
The third tab
decision,
in your bookmark, kid, watching this.
the decision to remove the tank had no influence from the Overwatch division, league division, but that is going to be a factor there. Those teams are like, oh, I don't have to pay another tank player. Word, I'm saving at least 50k.
You're gonna suck. It's like
I don't-
Yeah, but
I
you're-
don't-
It depends.
But like
Look,
you
the
said,
whole
most
thing
of these
comes down
rosters
to
have more
how
than
the
2
balance-
tank players. Some of them have 4, so you're gonna cut. You can still cut out.
no one
2.
has 4 tank players.
It
They
comes
have at
down
least
to the
3
balancing.
max.
If
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
all
So you're
actually
cutting out that
viable-
third, guaranteed.
You're cutting out a bench boy. Sorry, no more one tricks to pull in for when we need Reinhardt.
Well,
Buy
then your
Super,
big
like-
poster boy super could be out of a job. It's like
Or he could be nice.
he could be nice.
Or
Like,
this
there's
could be the
always the
biggest
option.
boon. Or this could be the biggest boon for the game since launch, and it becomes an actual top-level esport again, and you get expansion teams, which bring more jobs. Like, what is the
Yeah,
like? You got to
those-
think about the overall health. It's stupid to be like, oh no, my boy McGravy's gonna be out of a job. He's
I
already
don't care
retired,
that he's
but
I
out of
don't
a job.
care.
We're just saying that he might be.
This is just the thing that's most likely going to happen, and
Yeah, I think
also
it's
never
gonna-
a top tier. It was always like tier 2.
It's gonna cause like you're saying, Jake. There's gonna be those teams that are obviously gonna be like, well, this is a money-saving opportunity, and maybe
yes,
like
the LA Valiant will have one
Yeah.
tank player, but they weren't looking to win anyway. So.
yeah, like it'll be an opportunity for some teams
It
to save
just-
money, but I really think it's gonna lend itself more to that specialist side of things, where you're gonna want the only Winston player, which
You're
might help
assuming
out some
that
kids.
You're assuming that every tank is actually going to be viable as well. We know the balance team. Like, it's assuming that every tank is viable, and you need the spread to actually have. Like, you're not going to have, like you said, there's not going to be a kid that's good at every tank. So if you need to fill those spots, then yes, there are going to be room for fucking multiple tank roles on a team. But if the only tanks that are viable are Diva, Reinhardt, Winston for the first fucking season of the game because you know they're slow to release fucking balance patches, then it's not. Then those teams are going to get cut. And then are those kids ever going to get picked up again? Maybe not. Like,
And
that's the reality.
And then you also have to factor in, it's like, team synergy. If like now going to a solo tank, that synergy with that tank is going to be even more paramount. So it's like, are you going to want to keep rotating in like 2-3 tank players? Most likely
you're still
not,
gonna
unless
have
you
like a
absolutely
main
have.
tank who plays the most things, and then literally like an off tank who's like, okay, if we need someone for this particular hero that is like super niche, it's gonna be same as like a widow specialist or whatever. But it's gonna be a really important role, and I don't think you can leave it up to chance to be like, this one guy will be able to figure it out.
Yeah,
if
so
we run
at
into
max
a
you'll
Zarya
have
meta,
two, maybe. So
that's what it is now.
not really. Most have a tank substitute.
Only
like
your
that.
boys have 4 tanks, bro, and 2 of them ain't playing. Let me tell you that.
Am I bringing them up? No, they're an exception. But I think
just saying,
how many rosters
there's
have
not-
a boy on the bench that on tank right now?
The tank is already the most talent-starved role there is, like particularly main tank. But in general, it's like the level of tanks that are in the Overwatch League are super high. So I don't think most of them are going to get cut. I think a lot of them will, like a solid off tank, and you're still going to want to keep, as well as I think it's more the main tanks that have to look at, honestly, because just the mechanical end of things, and it's like it's going to be a whole new game sense thing with just one tank. But most tank players should be able to adapt. And it's just like, I don't know, having a Reinhardt one trick isn't really going to be the move.
Yeah, and I'm giving the balanced team the benefit of the doubt because some of the stuff that they were talking about, a lot of people don't even think about, like things with the innate abilities, like DPS, move faster. They're talking about adding sliders and taking into account stats that they weren't taking into account Overwatch 1 that they can tweak to make the gameplay experience feel better based on roles. So like things like that they're taking into account. I think that they're taking a whole look at the system of the game and the health of the game, and I don't think it's going to be as catastrophic as people are making it out to be.
Yeah, and I don't
in
think
general,
it's not
no.
doom. Yeah, it's not doom and gloom.
the tank
it's
players,
just like there is
very much
like
could be.
Jake is saying, it's gonna be both. It's just there are gonna be people that lose jobs, and it might actually be the main tanks, like Steve is saying, because like what are gonna be the meta tanks?
Yeah, but you have to think about like what the Overwatch, their whole goal, and what one of the main problems with updating Overwatch is. They've been trying to make everything viable. So with them going off of that, keeping that philosophy, which I don't imagine that they're changing, I don't think they're just gonna let a couple tanks be viable and that's
hard
that.
to do that, and they're not
always
gonna
trying to
I'm
make
just saying
everything
it's gonna
work.
take time to fucking make it work. They're not gonna have the gameplay data. They're not gonna do the play testing. That's like they're never gonna be able to do it in a million years. Versus like replacing it, like putting it into the wild and having the community play it. So at the beginning, like if they don't have some kind of buffer between like the release and then the league stage, they're gonna have some issues with the tanks.
People
I
are
think
pretty pissed that they're not really taking in. They didn't like really to ask for any input from high level players. Like you do have this resource that spend their whole fucking life, like or years
It's
focused
their
on your
career.
game.
It's their
But at
career.
the same
Like
time,
they know
it's a
better.
competitive career. This isn't handout hour, bro. If you can't keep
Yeah,
up,
we
with
did have that one
game-
video where we talked about this. Do you just have to take care of people because they got in once, or should they have to adapt with the game?
keep
Again,
up.
I don't care if they get fired. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying
a few
there
of
are
them
going
are
to
gonna
be.
get fired. I'm just saying. And Super was worried.
Yeah, it is very fair.
You saw him sweating, so I'm like, if the pros are concerned, maybe there's something to what I'm saying. Is all I'm saying.
Bro, by the time Overwatch 2 comes out, he'll be a streamer.
That too. Overwatch 2 isn't expected to come out till when?
Next year,
22.
maybe.
22.
Next spring.
So they have over a year.
Q4 22. That's what I'm calling right
Sorry?
now.
Over a year.
Over a year? Well, it's basically summer. What are you talking about? It's like, we're
Yeah,
almost halfway
over-
through this year.
I'm telling you, they're not gonna. There's gonna be something, man. There's no way. There's gonna be
Dude.
some bullshit issue, and like Overwatch 2 gets pushed back. Calling it.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed. You want to know what's gonna happen? You want to know what's gonna happen if if they're smart? They're gonna fucking wait until 2022 and put more content, because what's gonna happen is their player base is gonna be like, oh, they took out, like, it doesn't feel as good because they took out a lot of my utility as a DPS player, because majority of their player base plays DPS. And then 2, it's gonna be like, why wasn't this just a fucking update? It's like, why am I spending $60 on this?
Well, it does sound like
it is gonna be
they
an
are
update.
changing.
No.
But no,
Yeah,
it's not
but
a
you
new
don't have to
game.
rebuy it to play the multiplayer. It's good. Overwatch 2 is going to overtake Overwatch 1, and if you already
Oh,
have
really?
Overwatch 1, you
Yeah.
can still play
Yeah.
multiplayer.
You just have to pay
Overwatch
for the
2.
PvP, most likely.
Yeah,
PvE.
Overwatch 2 is just the PvE.
Yeah, PvE.
Ew. Are they charging $60 for fucking PvE?
I could see them doing the game as a service model. I think they probably should.
A
Paid
lot
to
of people have said that. Pay to
They're
win.
totally going to charge for the campaign
Character.
mode, but I imagine they'll make PvP free to play.
Yeah, free PvP, $20 campaign mode. But knowing Blizzard, probably 60. You know, based on WoW expansion prices.
Yeah.
Real Blizzard, I'll never forgive you guys for fucking the biggest scam. I don't even know if it's a scam. It's pretty much genius. Re-releasing classic WoW.
Yeah.
And then recently they just re-released Burning Crusade. So it sounds like they're just re-releasing every WoW expansion again.
With a graphical update. Maybe.
With the graphical
Bro,
update. Double
same
tap.
It's the same in The Wire. They're selling you the same shit repackaged, and it's
Yes.
just like, oh, you're already hooked. What do they care? They
Bro.
don't need to make your high better more experience. This,
And it's so funny because I've seen
Come
a
back.
couple of Reddit threads where people are like, they re-released Burning Crusade and the same bugs in Burning Crusade. They didn't change anything.
Yeah,
They're
It's
like
all
feral
about the
druids still
experience.
suck. It's all about-
You gotta reminisce
Yes.
about those bugs
Yeah,
when you were like
you-
12
bring
years
you
old.
back-
Oh yeah.
Bring you back to the terrible bugs that you used to experience.
Nostalgia bugs, bro.
God.
Funny,
All right,
Blizzard.
any final thoughts on this? Good for the game, bad for the game. Good for the esports scene. Obviously bad for the tank players. Maybe, but
Good for the scene in general, bad for the players, but they have to do something drastic. Otherwise, why would I ever care about Overwatch 2?
Yeah,
I think it's either gonna work real big or fucking crash and burn. Like
yeah,
there's not
I
gonna
love
be
a
any
big swing.
with this.
I think
I
it's
respect the
the
swing. We'll see if they actually
Yeah.
connect on anything or they just hit air. So
Because
definitely.
that was one of the biggest complaints is like, oh, it's not even a real sequel. It's just an update. It's like, all right, motherfuckers, here's some changes, and now you're crying that it's too different. What do you
but
want?
that's not like actual content. That's literally taking away content in a way.
It's adjustment. It's like a
It's an
different
adjustment, but
experience.
that's not like adding to it. So that
I mean-
doesn't fix that argument at all. Still, so we'll see.
The game will feel different. I definitely think it's a necessary evil because where the game wasn't headed in a good direction before. So
I do think they could have tried to just like teach people how to play tank more instead of doing.
They need to just
but...
teach people how to play the game in general. 6 years in.
mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but R.I.P. to that Ryan Zarya chemistry or whatever.
The
Yeah.
synergy.
Kings Row might not be the best map anymore. 'cause of that, so we'll see.
Yeah, Jake.
already not a
Until you're solo Ryan and you Tokyo drift through the choke and pin their Ryan, one shot him, and that's how you open up the fight.
Like they're playing the point on
They're
fucking
playing-
on the first point on King's Row, and you fucking double drift on and put him through that hallway. Oh my god, that is.
Imagine
nice.
if you could fire strike while pinning in. That
Bro,
would...
imagine
What if you could chase it?
you can chase your fires.
Erase it.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, they're. I hope it works. I want to enjoy it again. I just
Mhm.
until I see what they do to the other characters, it's looking like it's not gonna work for me.
No, I think it's really going to be contingent on changes to the other characters, which there didn't seem to be much, but it could just be. It seemed like they were kind of just using the old or the current version of the heroes, except for the ones that are completely being rewired.
Yeah. I respect
We'll have to
what they're trying to do. They're trying to address the issue of hopelessness that you feel when you play an Overwatch game. I
Mhm.
respect it, and hopefully it works out.
Hey, y'all always cried about I can't carry when there's 6v6.
Yeah.
Carry potential's back on the table.
Potentially.
Potentially, until
Yeah,
Reaper's the
potential's
best.
potential. Until Reaper's the best. Remove Reaper, remove Orisa, remove Moira. You're good.
Balanced.
Balanced. Let Jeff know. Let Jeff 2 know.
And don't make
But-
Bastion terrible.
What?
A menace.
Rework Bastion.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Oh, I thought you said like don't make Bastion terrible.
No, don't make him a menace.
Yeah, that kind of terrible. But we are the Infamy team hosting Fantasy, Fortnite, and Apex Legends tournaments over in our Discord, link in the description, as well as Valorant when it comes back. Maybe some more stuff coming. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.